Since its inception in 2010, the annual DC Africa celebration has fast become one of the district's most anticipated cultural events, drawing thousands of attendees and artistly working to unify diverse communities in DC through African art, history, music, all while showcasing the burgeoning contributions of the African immigrant community to the District of Columbia. So this year, 2013, marks the second year of the Mayor's proclamation of September as African Heritage Month. That is so important. And of course, simultaneously, it actually marks the 50th anniversary of the Organization of African Unity, which is better known as the African Union. So today we're joining governments and organizations and communities in neighboring jurisdictions and around the world to celebrate this very historic moment for Africans by promoting the official theme of the AU, which is Pan-Africanism and global renaissance in the 21st century. At the local level, this theme ties very seamlessly with Mayor Vincent C. Gray's governing philosophy of one city, where we all envision a city in which all residents live, work, and thrive together. And it further echoes the DC Mayor's Office on African Affairs Multicultural Awareness Program, which aims to promote multicultural awareness, understanding, and solidarity, and connectedness among all the diverse communities of the District of Columbia. So in honor of these two very historic milestones, this year's DC African Heritage Celebration will feature an award ceremony where we are honoring 7 exceptional leaders in the African community here in DC. We're so excited about that. And I should actually even go on about that piece. This year, we actually moved our format. Most of you also know our festival, our DC Africa Festival that we have annually. We moved it into an indoor space in order to have a more focused program, and for the very reason of actually really showcasing leaders in the African community here in DC. So it's so important for us to really have added that component to our program and really showcase and highlight the wonderful, exceptional contributions that the African immigrant community leaders that we'll highlight today are giving back to our community. Of course, we have live performances and an eclectic lineup from a wide range of different music genres, and we have live art right here on stage, or at least near the stage, where we'll be doing live art throughout the program. And of course, we have our recount survey, which we launched 2 years ago. And we encourage our community members here in DC to actually complete the demographic survey. It's basically our way of collecting immigrant or African immigrants in DC, whether they own businesses or community-based organizations. It's about collecting that information to make sure that this community is counted. One of the main issues around demographic data with the African immigrant community is that on the bicentennial census level, information is not collected according to country of origin or, of course, language spoken, which sometimes makes it so that, or all the time makes it, I should say, so that the African immigrant community is actually subsumed into the African American ethnic group or the Black race. Now, most Africans are Black, it's fine, but what happens is, on its face, it looks as if this community is monolithic and homogenous, and it really hides the cultural and linguistic diversity that exists within that community. So the We Count survey is our response to this kind of gap that we see within demographic surveys, so that it's so important for us to encourage our community members to fill that out. Okay, so of course there are lots of thank yous in order. I mean, it's just been a wonderful experience pulling this together. I've worked with a wonderful team, and of course with the support and the leadership of Mayor Vincent C. Gray, who we'll hear a little bit from in a bit. But we want to thank him so much. He's been so supportive. He's been so supportive and, of course, proclaiming September as African Heritage Month, and, of course, just generally his leadership and his guidance and his tenacity in really moving the city forward. So I'd like to thank him first and foremost. And, of course, our wonderful partners, the DC Commission on Arts and Humanities, Director Lionel Thomas, who's sitting right here in the front row, and if he wants to wave. He's been wonderful to work with. The DC Office on Human Rights, under the leadership of Gustavo, but I know he has a delegate here. Thank you so much. The Office of Community Affairs, my boss, Director Sleeve Gaudet, who's always so hands-on. I'm sure he's right over here. Thank you so much, Steve. So at this time, I want to go ahead and introduce the Mistress of Ceremonies, Ndimiaki Malewekwe. Ndimiaki has been a TV and radio reporter for Voice of America for more than 10 years, and currently she reports for Africa 54, a daily TV broadcasting in Africa. Ndimiaki has a strong interest in Africa and Africans, and of course other regions of the world. And she works tirelessly to address issues of concern in the audience, particularly those of women, children, and people with disabilities. Ndimiaki was born in Tanzania and raised in Zimbabwe, a Zimba girl. And she has a bachelor's degree from Howard University and a master's from American University. Please help me welcome Ndimiaki.
Okay, first of all, you know, a lot of things happen in Washington, D.C., and a lot of them happen behind the scenes. We don't really know some of the people who are making things happen, and I have to tell you, Ngozi Mezi is one of them. I know most of you have seen her, you've heard her, you've been to a lot of the events that she's put together on behalf of the Mayor's Office on African Affairs, and I really want you to all to give her a really big applause. And of course, I do want to thank the mayor, Mayor Vincent Gray. A lot of these things would not happen if there isn't leadership and commitment on that level. So I think it's also duly noted that Mayor Vincent Gray equally committed to the African cause, and we really need that. And then also, you know, I don't know about most of you, but I found more diversity, more Africans than I've ever met in Zimbabwe or Tanzania, where I'm from, and that's one of the real great strengths of the nation's capital. You can meet basically anybody from any country, and it doesn't mean that they're refugees or they're here as, you know, people who are in transit. People live here. They're making a life here. They're making a living here. We're meeting on a very equal level, which is not always something we hear about even in the continent. So I really want to recognize Washington, D.C. as this hub of the diversity of African cultures and the richness, and all of you helped to embrace it, to bring it together. And I think it's made us better Africans, don't you think? It's made me a better African because I understand so much more because of how I've been exposed. So I think that's something that we want to keep pushing forward. We always want to encourage each other to showcase our talents and our cultures. Luckily for us, the opportunity allows us to show the best of ourselves. Sometimes in Africa we can't because we've got so many issues, either conflict or economic woes, and people are striving. But over here, I think this is really what gives us hope, that if we could translate the kind of platform, opportunities that we have here on the continent, surely, can we not be like the next Washington, D.C.? I think so. So as we're moving on, I want to bring on I want to call her a friend, dear friend, and a dear person also here in the Washington, D.C. area who really makes us proud as Africans. Most of you have seen her, you've heard her, you've maybe interacted with her, so I don't even want to go too much further keeping you in suspense, but I will tell you, the person I'm talking about is Amirah Woods.
Can we give some attention, some love to the DC Office of African Affairs having the foresight to have a woman as its first leader? We got to call it out. And thank you. And also thank all of those, particularly those in the room, that made the Mayor's Office on African Affairs possible. We know many people worked for many years to make that a possibility. And we thank you for your work and dedication, and we thank you for your foresight today. I guess I was asked, in very brief, 2 minutes, to share some light on, 50 years. So I call this our Sankofa moment in the evening. Are you all ready for our Sankofa moment? Do you all know how many Ghanaians are in the room? The Ghanaians in the room know it well. It comes from a mythical Akan feature, which is called the Sankofa bird. You all know it? The Sankofa bird flying forward and looking back, right? So we're going to grasp this Sankofa moment now to talk about our leaders. 50 years ago, think with me now, 50 years back, we are celebrating the March on Washington, 1963. There was so much else happening as well on the other side of the Atlantic 50 years ago. You had struggles for independence happening in country after country on the continent. Noble leaders, and I know there are a lot of Ethiopians and folks from Liberia like me in the room that say, we were always independent. But even we had our challenges. And for those of us in Liberia and Ethiopia, independence was the number one priority. Ending the grip of colonialism, number one priority, even for countries that weren't under the scourge of colonialism. So 50 years ago, there was a movement afoot. And I love to hold up, the Congolese in the room probably know the story best. Patrice Lumumba, just one of many phenomenal leaders who had the vision to say no to colonialism, who had, I think, one of the best quotes that guides us still today. The resources of Africa must feed the children of Africa. Patrice Lumumba said it best 50 years ago, right? But it wasn't just him. There were so many liberation leaders who coordinated in their faith-based groups, in their communities and associations, in their social movements, in their susu groups, all around. Movements for change were happening. And it is those movements for change that galvanized and really started this wind that blew throughout the continent. But 50 years ago, I think it's important to remember, it wasn't only about one country, one place on the continent, but there was a Pan-African vision that took form in the body of what was called the Organization of African Unity. There was a whole lot of division coming together, but it was led by Casablanca, the Casablanca group, the Monrovia group, different visions of Pan-Africanism, but all came together to say, we must stand together as a continent. And they forged the Organization of African Unity 50 years ago, this month. So I applaud those from Maryland and DC who took September as African Heritage Month, who made a connection to the Organization of African Unity, who held up and are still holding up a Pan-African vision today. It is that vision that I think will continue to see us through. It's hard to do this in 2 minutes, but I think that clearly the other issue 50 years ago was really around ending the scourge of apartheid, which galvanized not only people on the continent but around the world, and still remains a mission today to end minority rule where it exists, to make sure that those on whose land resources lie actually enjoy the benefits of those resources. So 50 years ago, we couldn't have envisioned a statue of Mandela in Washington, D.C., with his fists up high. And I know many of you were there last Saturday. I couldn't be there, but I was there in spirit, seeing that statue now and for generations to come, understanding the power, the vision of African leadership. This is what it's about. 50 years ago, today, and for 50 years to come, we've got to continue to push forward a vision of Africa united, whether we're from Brazil or from Washington, D.C., or from Tanzania, Zimbabwe, and everywhere in between, right? North Africa, south of the Sahara, all of us are facing a common vision and a common agenda. That is, how do we uphold this continent for the coming 50 years? And I would say it comes by holding up women. It's a bias, I know, but we got to put it out there, by holding up women. And I think we've got to recognize it is not only the DC Office of African Affairs that has a woman at its head, it is also the African Union in all its vision with a woman at its head for the very first time. It is also the African Union that has, through the Pan-African Parliament, mandated, through affirmative action, seats for women representatives in the Pan-African Parliament. It is opening up new spaces for leadership in this 21st century that I believe will change the nature of things to come.
Okay. So at this time, I'd like to welcome the mayor, Mayor Vincent C. Gray, to the podium. Mayor Vincent C. Gray has been wonderfully supportive of the Office on African Affairs and the African community in general. He's been a visionary, a leader, and really a support system for making us move things forward and drive the city in a positive direction. His presence here today really signifies his support for the community. And I should mention that this year is actually the fourth year that the mayor has actually attended the annual DC Africa celebration. So it's important to clarify that since its inception in 2010, so that's extremely important. So at this time, I'd like to welcome Mayor Vincent C. Gray to the podium, a man who I have a tremendous amount of respect for.
Thank you very much, Ngozi. Good evening, everybody. And welcome to the historic Howard Theater. This is one of our great venues here in the District of Columbia, the place where so many historic musicians have played, and I've been here for a lot of their performances. How many people have heard of the great James Brown? You know, I saw James Brown do something here once that was just unbelievable. There was an entire band up on this stage, and he was singing. And so he told all the band members to stop playing and just move out of their seats. And he then proceeded to move through every seat in the band and played every instrument there was in the band. It was the most unbelievable experience I've ever had at a musical performance. And that's what this theater is. This theater is historic. And isn't it wonderful to be able to have this event tonight here in the historic Howard Theater? This is our fourth annual. And I can't wait till we celebrate our 14th and then our 24th. And you know what? We will be celebrating those because I'm very proud of what Ngozi has done. I'm proud of our Office of African Affairs. And I am proud that we are a city that is becoming increasingly diverse and welcomes our African immigrant community here into the District of Columbia. It also was wonderful to hear about the 50th anniversary of the formation of the Organization of African Unity. 1963 was one heck of a year, man. It was the year that the greatest speech ever given was given. That was, of course, the I Have a Dream speech by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It was the year when the Voting Rights Act in this country, and obviously it was the year also when the Organization of African Unity was formed. And wasn't that a great year, ladies and gentlemen? You know, you all heard it earlier. I was listening to Ngozi when she talked about the fact that now 10% of the African immigrant community is in the Washington, D.C. area. Some 140, almost 150,000 people living in the metropolitan Washington area of African descent. And right here in our nation's capital now, 16,000 people. And we are going to continue to grow, ladies and gentlemen. We have 30% of our African community in the District of Columbia is Ethiopian, 14.5% Nigerian, 12% from Cameroon, 5% from Ghana, and 5% from Sierra Leone. Can we all give it up for Africa, ladies and gentlemen? You know, we're here to honor some people tonight who've done some pretty extraordinary things. So I just wanted to be here to be a part of it. I wanted to be here to support Ngozi. I wanted to support Steve Glaudet, who heads our Office of Community Affairs, and under which the Office of African Affairs falls, as well as some of our other offices. I know our Director of the Office of Human Rights, Gustavo Velasquez, is here tonight. We're proud that he is here. And I see two of our other leaders here also. Nick Majette from the Department of Consumer and Regulatory Affairs, and David Burns from our Department of Human Services. Stand up and be recognized, gentlemen. And would you join me now in something that I am excited to do, and that is to recognize that September is African Heritage Month in the District of Columbia. I am not going to read all the whereases, but I am going to read the last part, and that is, as mayor of the District of Columbia, I am proud to proclaim September 2013 as African Heritage Month in the District of Columbia, and call upon everybody who lives in this city to recognize us all across our nation's capital. Come on, everybody, stand up and support African Heritage Month.
All right, so at this point in time, we're actually going to jump right into the award ceremony here. So I'd like to welcome Eric Williams to the stage to start that off for us.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to come and present before you. Unfortunately, Representative Karen Bass is on the Hill voting, trying to keep our government open for the next week, months, and years. But we are plagued by opposition, as you all know so very well. So it is my distinct pleasure to stand in her place. My name is Eric Williams, and I'm the staff director on the Africa Subcommittee in the House of Representatives for the Democratic Party. So I am so pleased and honored to be here to celebrate all of these amazing champions and to the extraordinary diaspora community that we have in our area. And I will say, Mayor Gray, that I was born in D.C. in 1977, so I am a true born and raised in Washington. Before I begin, let me just also thank the D.C. Commission on the Arts and the Humanities, the D.C. Office of Human Rights, the D.C. Office of Community Affairs, and how can we forget the Mayor's Office on African Affairs as well. All right, so our first awardee, who is a woman, is Angèle Kouemo. Born and raised in Cameroon, Angèle Kouemo holds a bachelor and an LLM degree in economics activity law from the University of Rouen in France, and an LLM degree in international business transactions and human rights law from Washington College of Law at American University here in Washington, D.C. She is the president of A Strategic Group, LLC. Angèle spent 7 years in Congress as a legislative counsel for Congressman Bobby L. Rush, where she demonstrated her invaluable leadership skills and her unparalleled understanding of the complexities of a multifaceted global economy. While on the Hill, Angèle launched the first African Day and co-founded the Congressional African Staffers Association, CASA. And there are members here tonight, including myself, a bipartisan and bicameral organization to educate House and Senate leaders and their staff on promoting U.S.-Africa policy. Angèle has been instrumental to the African community by playing a key role in policy formation on issues affecting Africans' economic development in the U.S. Congress, including passage of several bills. And let me read the titles of some of these because they are inspiring. Recognizing the strategic and economic importance of Africa to the U.S., the African Investment and Diaspora Act of 2011, and the Increasing American Jobs Through Greater Exports to African Act of 2012. The goal of these bills were to increase U.S. trade relations and diaspora business participation in international business arena. With her outstanding cultural, social, and economic contributions to the African community of the District of Columbia, Angèle has always gone the extra mile to represent the voice of Africans. it is with a great sense of pleasure, as her former colleague and friend, and on behalf of Representative Karen Bass, to present Angèle Kouemo avec le prix Service Public. Félicitations, Madame Kouemo.
Good evening. I'm Steve Glaudet. I'm Director of the Mayor's Office of Community Affairs. The Mayor's Office of Community Affairs is a 12-agency cluster which engages the most important constituents in the District of Columbia, its residents, all of its residents. Residents which include African, Asian, and Latino immigrants, faith-based leaders, volunteers, youth, women, local elected officials, veterans, nonprofits, GBLTQ, and more. And I just have to take a quick moment to thank Mayor Gray for having bestowed this amazing responsibility honor on me. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor, for this appointment. I also want to commend our Office of African Affairs Director, Ngozi Mezi. She always exceeds our expectations in moments like this. Not only serving well, but planning and implementing way beyond what we most times think is possible. These offices, just for pure budgetary reasons, have very efficient budgets. And most times you don't think an event of this scale and magnitude is possible given the resources that we often have to work with. All district agencies are doing a lot more with less, given some of the economic challenges that we have. And so I just want to commend Ngozi for always pulling it off in an amazing way and in an amazing venue. She is resourceful, thoughtful, entrepreneurial, and it's indeed a pleasure to work with her and her team at the Office of African Affairs. I have the pleasure of presenting the Community Service Award to Gangu Terabodi. Ms. Terabodi was born and raised in the West African nation of Togo. She earned a master's degree in business law from the Université de Lome in Togo and a Master of Laws LLM in International Legal Studies from the American University Washington College of Law. She is currently serving on the Commission on African Affairs and chairs the Language Access Subcommittee. Previously, she worked with the DC Language Access Coalition as the Immigrant Education Consultant, as well as the Language Access Advocate. She eventually became the Outreach and Partnerships Coordinator at Many Languages, One Voice, My Love, which administers the Language Access Coalition. Ms. Terabodi has been active in her community, organizing, assisting low-income families, immigrants, and refugees on issues that affect them the most: affordable childcare and housing, economic empowerment with the IRS, DC Cash Coalition, tenant organizing with the Latino Economic Development Corporation. She has served as a liaison for the Office of African Affairs since 2007, helping to strengthen the link within the district's Francophone community. She has also organized roundtables for parents on education, coordinated participation on African residents in rallies for affordable health, affordable childcare, affordable housing, and immigrant reform, as well as helping the March on Washington. She brought along family members, friends, and other community members to events, public hearings, and rallies. As a member of the team, African Health and Outreach and Education Initiative, she helped plan and promote and ensure the success of the African Health and Wellness Fête held in June of 2013. And I could keep going on and on, but I think you get the picture. Congratulations.
Good evening. I bring you greetings from the Honorable Frank Smith, Jr., the Director of the African American Civil War Museum. Our commitment at the museum is building bridges through history so that we understand that we are connected to our ancestors. I want to personally thank the mayor, Mayor Gray, for his support of building such bridges. I have the honor tonight to recognize a bridge builder, someone who for many years has been working in the DC area as an entrepreneur, a businessman, the president of Little Ethiopia, whose understanding of who we are as African people is that we must have a long memory. It is over a short period that we have been separated. But over a long period, when we understand our history in totality, we understand that we are one people. And I'd like to honor tonight Tamarat Medhin. If you have not been to his mixers, if you have not been to his symposiums, then you have been missing out on some bridge building. He understands the interconnectedness and he goes for it. He doesn't just talk the game, he plays the game. He doesn't just say there should be a bridge, he says let's build a bridge. So it is my honor to recognize, to be here today to speak to this contributor to our bridge building, to our one people, to Pan-Africanism in its best way, where we understand that we are connected as one people.
Good evening. My name is Lafayette Barnes. I'm the director of the Mayor's Office of Partnerships and Grant Services, and a proud member appointed by the Mayor to the Commission on African Affairs. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce our Institutional Builder Award recipient, Mr. Anthony Chukwu. This is my Igbo brother from Nigeria, in case you don't know that. I don't think I need to say anything else about this, but I'm just going to take a few quick points of this distinguished person. Born and raised in Nigeria of Igbo heritage, Mr. Anthony Chukwu arrived in the United States in 1990, another important year, with only $50 in his wallet and a small brown bag. Well, I was scared of you when you got off that boat, brother. Today, he is Chief Executive Officer of the Citywide Computer Training Center, provides economic development opportunities and skill training to well over, you hear this, Mayor, 15,000 individuals in Washington, D.C. Anthony now has over 23 years of experience developing and delivering employment training, retention services, developing and launching workforce development programs, serving returning citizens, disconnected youth at risk, and low-income individuals in need of career development. Need I say anything else more about this brother? Huh? Where's the award? Congratulations, my brother.
My name is Robert Summers. I'm the acting director with the Department of Small and Local Business Development. Thank you. Right, I see you got the check earlier. Thank you. Appreciate that. I've been tasked by the mayor to help our small local businesses stay in the area, develop, grow, and basically get retention of our local successful business in DC. So with that, it leads me to a good segue. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time, but get right to the point. We want to honor tonight Mr. Hanuk Tesfaye. As you can see, we have our esteemed mayor up here. Our mayor has deputy mayors. Unbeknownst to our mayor, he has another deputy mayor in Hanuk. He's the mayor of U Street. So for those of you who don't know, born and raised in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, moved to Washington, D.C. at the age of 16. Not long after that, We're not going to tell his age, but not long after that, he started U Street Parking. What's truly successful about this, he started with 4 employees. I believe now we have approximately 500 employees with U Street Parking, so truly a success story. Because of all of his success, he's been featured in such media outlets as the Washington Post, CNN, Voice of America, and numerous Ethiopian publications. He's truly one of the stalwarts in the U Street area. He's part of the Shaw Street Main Street that DSLBD helps out a little bit. He's part of DC Chamber of Commerce. He also runs a foundation in Ethiopia, the Mary Joy Foundation that assists seniors and children in Ethiopia. So it is my sincere pleasure to introduce the Business Leader Award, or to present the Business Leader Award to Mr. Hanuk Tesfaye.
My name is Lionel Thomas. I'm the Executive Director of the DC Commission on the Arts and Humanities. I'm very pleased and honored to be here this evening as the arts agency that celebrates culture in this city. We are very excited to be a partner with the Office of African Affairs in celebrating the arts and culture of all people. So thank you very much for being here. It is my distinct honor to introduce you to an honoree who really does not need any introduction. If you don't know him, you have had to have your head buried in the sand. He is someone that I have called a friend for a very long time. He came here in 1983 and started a small little dance company called the Kankaran West African Dancers and Drummers. He's the founder and artistic director of that company and has received numerous awards, including the Mayor's Arts Awards, as well as many grants and granting opportunities that he's been a part of, the NEA, the National Endowment for the Arts. But one thing that I can say that is a profound, that would be a part of his profound legacy is his commitment to educating our young people. And that's why it's my honor this evening to celebrate and to bring to the stage Asan Kante for the Cultural Education Leader Award.
Afambo Chidi Achebe. My name is Chidi Achebe. It's a pleasure to be here today. I'm wearing a combination of black because some of you know that my dad, Chinua Achebe, passed away recently. I was asked very briefly, because I only have 2 minutes, to talk a bit about him and then present the award. So what I'm going to do, when you're talking about a literary figure of global importance like Dad, if you notice, I'm talking in the present tense, not in the past tense, because African writers and artists live on. We are not Westerners. We don't talk about the past. If you look at the emblem up there on top, it says, a writer in whose company the prison walls fell down. And that's from Nelson Mandela. I don't think there's no better way to talk about or celebrate an artist than to talk or to give an example of his art. So I'm going to read a very, very short story from Dad. It's about the tortoise and the leopard. The leopard meets a tortoise on a lonely stretch of road. The leopard has been trying to catch the tortoise for a long time. The tortoise is a trickster, and so obviously he's been escaping. And then on this day, the leopard finally catches up to him and says, "Aha, you know, now I've got you, prepare to die." And the tortoise says to the leopard, "Can I ask you one last favor?" And the leopard says, "Yes, why not?" And the tortoise says, "Give me a short time to prepare myself for death." And the leopard looked around and said, "I don't see why not. Go ahead and prepare to die." But then instead of standing still and thinking, as the leopard had expected, the tortoise began to dig and scatter sand all over the road, throwing sand in all directions. And the leopard says, What's going on? What are you doing?" And the tortoise says, "I'm doing this because after I'm dead, I want anyone passing by this spot, seeing all this sign of struggle on the roads, to say, a man and his match struggled here. And the moral of this is important, and it talks about struggle in the arts, a commitment to the craft and excellence of the arts. It's not about succeeding, it's actually about that struggle. And what we need to do now is celebrate a new generation of artists who is committed to the arts and to excellence in the arts. And that artist is Eniakon Udofia. Very briefly, called on his class by his teachers to portray demonstrative drawings back in his primary school years in Nigeria. Udofia never once envisioned he would become one of the District of Columbia's outstanding artists. From his well-known mural of President Barack Obama and other famous patrons on the walls of the famous Ben's Chili Bowl on U Street to the Happy Children's mural in Adams Morgan, Udofia has become a household name in the district, inspiring young Africans growing up in the district as his community to use art as a way to express oneself. Udofia is the lead artist in the district's Murals DC program, which has produced approximately 43 murals in the district. Let's give it up for Udofia.
Good evening, everyone. I'm very grateful for this. I was supposed to be painting live tonight, so I just want to make it really short. So I have, being that I was born here in DC and I went back home to Nigeria, and I grew up during the 90s hip-hop era. This is a part of a series of mine called The Village B-Boy, because when I was living in Nigeria, the idea of hip-hop is we used to have villagers who lived in big cities like Lagos, Ibadan, and so on. So they would bring hip-hop in that we knew of, but they didn't know of. So these people became ambassadors of culture. So it's a blending of native African culture with American hip-hop culture. So you see where she has a radio down there, and she's fully dressed in her African outfit. So that'll be a project that I'm kicking off next year, and hopefully trying to get back to Nigeria and host a few seminars on aerosol art and so on. So on behalf of the Mayor's Office on African Affairs, the DC Commission on the Arts, DC itself, an artist is nothing without an audience. So I want to thank all you for, over the years, supporting what I do. I want to thank Naija, you know where I'm from. I want to thank DC, you know, yeah, this is from me to you. Thank you.
To Mayor Vincent Gray, thank you so much. To all the components of Washington, D.C. that really uplift and honor the African contribution to Washington, D.C. Thank you so much.